I'm afraid to start painting. It won't turn out the way I want it to. I enjoy the process, but the result isn't great. I've spent a lot of money on materials and they are just lying around. What if I fail? How often do these phrases spin in your head? Despite the fact that I've been involved in creative work all my life, I still doubt my abilities and often fall into despair without even starting a new project. It seems inevitable to me. Good day to everyone, and you're on my channel where I talk intuitively about art. What, how, and why. In this video, I want to explore this topic using two small works as examples, in which mistakes in the drawing became not a drawback, but on the contrary, a highlight. These paintings were started during an online workshop where the task was to work with shapes. In the first painting case, I needed to feel only the shape of the object, the praying mantis and the flower. And in the second one, the negative space around the object. I rarely start painting without a preliminary sketch, so I didn't know if I could draw such a complex shape without mistakes. Although, on the other hand, I chose them for this very reason, as the easy path is not for me. The first stage of creating the shapes took me only a few minutes, and at first I was very pleased with the result. But as the work progressed, I noticed a couple of details that didn't match the references. Before I started these two paintings, I spent a long time painting a series of portraits in which I couldn't create freely, so I wanted to experiment with the background and color on these canvases. Various brushes and other tools were used in the process, and I didn't know in advance what the result would look like. I acted on instinct, listening to my inner voice. By the time I'm preparing this video, the works have long been completed and even coated with varnish. And when I look at them now, I remember the excitement and joy I felt when I painted them. It was something similar to when I was a child and played with watercolors. Combining the pleasure and ease of the process, the happiness and admiration of the result is possible if you stop being afraid and follow the rules of composition, color theory, and drawing. I spoiled so much paper and canvas to learn all of this, so being afraid now is just silly. But let's talk about what, in my opinion, stops you from creating. The fear of making mistakes. This is the most common reason, especially when you've set a goal to achieve a specific result. You'll be ashamed not only in front of imaginary people who might see your mistakes, but also in front of yourself. I spent so much time on this, I'd better not have done anything. Strange as it may sound, think about the fact that people can do nothing and not feel like they've wasted a lot of time, but spend 2 hours on a failed drawing and you feel empty. One failed drawing is not a curse with no cure. Quantity turns into quality over time. The first reason smoothly transitions to the second: lack of knowledge and experience. I'm afraid because I don't know where to start. It's quite difficult, but you might remember those days when you were 3 or 4 years old, you picked up a colored pencil, drew a few lines, and felt like a winner. thinking it was a masterpiece. Drawing well is not an innate ability, and talent has nothing to do with it. It's a long process of acquiring knowledge and hundreds of hours of practice. Even if I drew poorly, it was still the only activity that brought me immense joy. So just imagine that you're a little child again, with just one pencil to create a masterpiece. The third reason is videos or photos of paintings or works by other artists. What should really inspire you sometimes has the opposite effect. I'll never be able to do it like that. I'd better stop trying. Personally, this often plunged me into depression, and there were days, even weeks, when I didn't want to do anything. In this case, sketches were small works that didn't inherently have great creative value, but brought me tremendous joy, helped me. If you've heard about the Stendhal syndrome, it's something like that, only on a reduced scale. The fun begins where your comfort zone ends. If this happens to you often, try looking not on the canvases of the great masters, but at art materials in stores. That will surely inspire you to be creative. And if you're afraid to use them after buying, try to choose the cheapest materials that you won't regret spoiling. If you need more reasons not to be afraid, I have many more in my arsenal. Write in the comments if you'd like me to explore this topic in future videos. Meanwhile, I would like to return to the topic of mistakes. Earlier, I mentioned that the mistakes I made in these paintings became not their drawbacks, but on the contrary, their merit. Perhaps if I hadn't told you, you wouldn't have guessed what I was talking about. When at the first stage I drew the silhouettes of the mantises, the legs with spikes turned out to be too big. And since I wanted to keep the background semi-transparent, I had to come up with something to fix this detail. And then it occurred to me, why not emphasize it instead? Using very bright colors in both cases, I covered the areas that didn't match the reference. In the case of the mantis on a dark background, it's an almost neon green. And for the mantis on the light background, it's a blue shade. I hope you noticed these details before I mentioned them. Share your thoughts in the comments. How do you like the result? I didn't want to simply copy the photos, even if I really like them, but convey a more airy atmosphere with different textures and colors. Thank you for watching this video to the end. I would like to wish you a lot of inspiration and not let fear stop you from creating new works. I hope you found this video useful. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll be waiting for you in the next videos.